Good morning, guys. Welcome back to my old tractor shed. Out here playing again this morning. Yesterday I got the final drive put back onto the machine. I've come out here, just been puttering, cleaning up. I've got my dial indicator on here. It's not quite as fancy as my neighbor's. The arms don't quite articulate as nice as his. So I had to clamp a piece of angle iron up here and get the magnetic base, and I've got it on the top. Got the other camera running here. I'll get you a view. I have an awful lot of backlash here. Let me zoom in that camera so you can see what I'm looking at. My little gauge seems to be moving, but it's over 40 thou. So a fair amount of play. I'm going to have to try and adjust that. There's a bit of an issue. This is the bearing carrier piece that goes here, of course. There's one on each side. There's some shims that go behind here. The one on from where I'm sitting, the one on the left I can get up. This came off of, would have been the final drive out of the 510. Yeah, the one with the hole broke out the bottom. This came off of that transmission. I have those shims, although I don't think those shims are going to help me. There's also an O-ring in here that I'd like to change, and I've got O-rings for both sides. The one that's on this side is going to be a bit of a problem. The bull gears, of course, there would be a small pinion gear in here, and the bull gear goes into here. The bull gear on this side, I'm able to roll it far enough back to take that off. But when I was trying to take that piece off of the 510 final drive, the bull gear that's sitting in behind here comes up against, I'll take a video here in a second, comes up against the gear for the low speed PTO, and it won't allow that gear to roll back in order to get this piece here all the way off. I can get it far enough out to get the shims because I did it on the other machine. And like I say, those shims aren't going to help me. I don't believe I'm going to be adding or subtracting the total number of shims. I'm shifting shims, and I think I've got to get that crown gear to go that way. So I'm going to be taking some shims out of here. Correct me if I'm wrong. By the time you see this video, I will have figured it out. But you go ahead and tell me in the comments if I'm wrong. I think I've got to take the shims out of this side and put on that side. I've got to maintain the total number of shims because that affects the backlash of these bearings that are in here. But by moving shims left or right, that's going to shift the crown gear left and right, which if I move it closer to the pinion gear, I believe that's going to decrease my backlash. I don't feel I'm going to have a problem getting this far enough out to get the shims out because I got the shims out of the 5-1. They fall out. They're half moon shims. But I'd like to change that O-ring that's in there. Yeah, I'd like to. If I can't, I don't think I can get it out far enough with the bull gear in here. The little stub piece that is the low speed, the coarse spline PTO, I did try to remove it on that other machine, and I don't like to use violence, but I got pretty violent with it. I wasn't 100% concerned at the time about that because all I wanted was the shims. I'm not going to get violent with this one. There's no way in hell. I need this one. So, okay, I know I can get it far enough out to get the shims and hopefully fix this problem. O-ring, we'll cross that bridge when we get to. I'm going to move this other camera and show you this little piece that I need to try and get out. That little cone-shaped piece down there, I'm not sure if you can see, right there, there's a snap ring. And I think if I get that snap ring off, this piece, there's a bearing in here, but there's nothing inside there. That should go out that way, allowing me to get this gear out of the way, because you can see the bull gear comes back and hits that, and that in turn, let me move this camera, so the bull gear here doesn't come out where that pinion gear is, and that piece, trying to get my hand, this piece right here, that's that piece that I need to get out, but of course it's hitting right there. It will move out. There's enough movement there that it'll move out far enough to get the shims, but there isn't enough movement there to get it all the way out. So I'm going to play with that little snap ring, and I'm going to just try gently to see if I can pull that out. Alrighty guys, I made an attempt to do a little wee bit of a voiceover. That way I could leave my music playing, leave my heat turned on. Didn't work out quite as I had planned. I had got the snap ring out of the way and I had pried the gear back part way, but then the whole thing was moving on me. I had the other camera set up over here, but somebody forgot to turn it on. Making videos is a difficult thing. What you didn't see, and I'm going to go to this other camera, I managed, as soon as it moved out away from the bearing a little ways, I had this collar here, and I got the pry bar under that, and I managed to slide it out, and then actually I ended up getting behind the bearing itself and slid it out of the, this is where that, there's a key here, and this is where that gear rode. So anyway, I got that all apart without, actually not that much difficulty at all, to be honest with you. Pretty pleased. So I have done away with my dial indicator, and I got that little homemade tool that I had made. Took one of the bolts out of the crown gear. We'll see how that goes. The other side, I actually, yes, I must have already had that side apart because the O-ring's not in there, and I know I didn't put it back in. There was only 2 shims on the other side, and I've measured them and I've marked them. They stay there. So need to get this side off. This side I haven't had off because of that bull gear. But now the bull gear is set back. I would like to take that one all the way off and wash it and clean it up. And then we'll play around with these shims. But I'm going to put them back together without the O-rings for now until I get this adjusted. Then I'll take them off a final time and replace those O-rings. So probably going to jump into time lapse. Let's see if we can get that off. That really didn't come off difficult at all. I'm going to remove this O-ring, and then I do have a little wee bit of dirt here. I'm going to go wash this up in the parts washer, and then I'm going to clean this up a little wee bit, and then I'll bring you guys back. Give me a minute. All right, guys, I got this bearing carrier all washed up, and I cleaned up in here and took that O-ring off. I do have new O-rings for that, but for now I'm going to leave the O-rings out. I'm likely going to be putting this together and taking it apart a few times. I've measured all of the shims that have come out of this machine, and they're all right around 40 thou. There was 2 sets of them on this side and 1 set on the other side. So what I'm going to do for now is just put 1 set on this side and put 2 on that side, and then I'll take another measurement and see where I'm at. I do have the close-up camera running, so let's jump into time mode, or time-lapse mode. All right, not too much to that. Not much room to fill them on the other side. So let me get the 2 sets of shims on the other side, and then I'll get my thing off, get the dial indicator back on, and I'll bring you guys back. Stay tuned. Well, alrighty, guys. I am running into a little bit of an issue, which I suppose isn't a huge surprise. I had taken away an upper and a lower 40 thou shim and set it on the other side, and I bolted up of the remaining 40 thou here, and I'd snugged it up. Didn't reef on them, but I'd snugged it up. I didn't notice that the crown gear didn't want to turn. Got to the other side, so over there I took the 2 halves, the 2 40 thous from this side, and I was putting them in on the other side with the 40 thou that was on the other side. And while I was doing it, I realized that that gear didn't want to turn. Initially, I thought it was that little hook tool that I made to support the whole differential while you're fooling with it. Very quickly realized it wasn't that at all. Before I tightened the other side, I came back over here and I loosened these bolts off on this side and got my little screwdriver and I just backed it off ever so slightly, and then the crown gear was able to turn. So I snugged up the other side, still able to turn. Started to snug up this side slowly and I was not able to turn. So I pulled it back out. I've put my dial indicator rig in here and I got the close-up camera on it, and these are not tight. These bolts are not tight. It's pulled away a little bit. And at the moment, I've probably got, I don't know, 5 or 6 thou, I guess. Wow. All right. So I have a problem. The set that I salvaged from the 510, I originally thought there was only 4 here, but they were stuck together with a little bit of oil. I've washed them in the parts washer, and there is actually 5 of them here. And I've measured them all, and I put them together with a zip tie when I took them out of the machine, so I wouldn't mix them up. And I've checked, and they are pairs. And I've got a 5 thou, a 40 thou, a 4 thou, an 8 thou, and another 40 thou. I need some 20s and some 10s, I think, is what I need. I think instead of taking 40 thou from this side to that, it would be nice to try 20 over there and leave 20 here, so I still have my total. What I have at the moment, 3 times 40 is what, 120? I think I need to maintain that number to maintain the bearing preload. I don't want to be taking some of these shims and adding to this side to pull it back. I'm going to be changing bearing preloads. So I have an idea about making some new shims. It's going to take a little bit of time, unfortunately. I'm going to get my neighbor buddy to come over, and he and I are going to look at this together. He's got a bit more experience with this stuff than myself. We might be changing bearing preloads. I don't really know. So for you, I'm sure it's only going to be a few seconds, but for me it might be a little while, but that's okay. It's just a game. It's all just a game for me. Fortunately, I don't need this tractor. No big deal. No big deal. Just another challenge to rise to, right? All right. We'll see you guys in a second. Welcome back, guys. These shims for this differential final drive dealie here didn't turn out to be that big a deal. I had a sheet of aluminum here that was 10 thou. I also had a sheet of 30 thou, but the 10 thou stuff, I just took one of the original shims, laid it on top, and just traced it out with a pencil. And actually I was able to cut this with a pair of scissors. The bolt holes, I didn't have one of those hollow punches that you use for making the holes for gaskets. It was big enough, so it took me a couple days, but I ordered one. So I've made, what did I make here? I made 4 sets. Oh, because what did we have? We had 2 40 thou shims on this side and 1 set of 40 thou on the other side. I took a set from here and moved it over, and that made it too tight. So I've made up 4 sets of these 10 thou to equal 40 thou, and I've already put 2 sets on the other side, so I got 20 thou over there, and I'm going to attempt to put the 140 thou here, and then I'll put 20 thou here, right? I've split it in half. I'm trying to keep it straight in my own head, and we'll see how that goes. So I'm going to be able to do this in 10 thou, and my neighbor tells me he's got some 5 thou stock. So if need be, I'm going to do the same thing and get a little more finer resolution. So on the top here, there's still one of the 40 thous. This is the 40 thou out of the bottom. I'm going to attempt. They are a little bit fiddly, but once they're in and you sandwich them down, they're just fine. So let me see if I can get these in here. These ones went in quite a bit easier than the other side. Okay, I'm going to start snugging them up, but then I'm going to keep an eye on this bull gear. Right now I've got a horrendous amount of play. Let's see what happens as we start to snug these up. I've got the other camera going here. It's not tight. I can turn this. There the dial indicator is touching. I actually turned it forward, and I moved the dial indicator off the tooth. It's on the tooth there now, and I've got movement in the gauge. Okay, these aren't completely tight yet, and I have no backlash at all. So too tight. So what I've got to do is I've got to go back to the other side, take out one of the 10 thous and bring it back here. So originally I had 40 thou. I'll redo this again with 30 thou. I think I'm doing this right. Let me know in the comments. Am I doing this right? Once again, by the time I get this video posted, I will have certainly figured it out. I'll be driving it down the road. Not likely. Okay, let me take this back apart. I'll take the other side apart and we'll do this again. Alrighty guys, I went to the other side and I pulled out one pair. So now I'm going to add it back to this side. So what did we have originally? We had 40 on the other side and 80 on this side. Now we got 50 on the other side and we'll end up with 70 here. If I'm doing my math right. Math's not my strong point. Okay, let me try and fiddle these in. Doesn't feel like I got any back. It's not tight like it was before, where it's not tight like the very first time that I did it. But I'm still not feeling any backlash. Let me fool with this for a minute. I can hear it, but I'm having trouble seeing it. As I'm trying to rock the crown gear, I think I can hear it going clunk, clunk, which I think is what I'm after, but I think I'm also turning the transmission. I've got some backlash, but I haven't got a hell of a lot. I can feel and hear a clunk, clunk when I move it back and forth. When I was doing it before, it moved quite free between the clunks. Now, there's resistance. Okay, I guess that's the word I'm looking for. Between the two clunks, looks like it's 20 thou, but there's quite a bit of resistance here. So I'm going to get my neighbor to. There's one clunk there, and you can see it. No. Right there. Maybe 18. But it's there's quite a bit of resistance. Well, I don't have any 5 thou stock anyway. I think I'm going to invite my neighbor over for a cup of coffee, get him to come and look at this, and we'll make some decisions. Anyway, I will bring you guys back. See you in a minute. Well, alrighty guys, my neighbor and I were fooling with this for not a whole lot of time, probably 20 minutes. Problem was, I had the bearing preload too tight. I think what happened here is these aluminum shims that I made, the calipers that I was measuring them with, maybe wasn't as accurate as it could be, and it looks like they're closer to 9th thou than 10th thou. So that caused the bearing preload to be too tight, which was causing me a lot of grief. I was trying to move that crown gear to check the backlash, but I had to exert so much force to get it to move that I was actually moving too much, moving the transmission, causing some grief. So when I had taken the other final drive apart, I'd actually pulled out, there was 10 shims in total, sets of 5, whatever, pairs. How do I say that? I got 5 extra shims. And the thinnest one was 4th thou. So we took that set and we put it on the far side. We left this side alone because this is affecting how the crown gear comes into the pinion. But by adding the 4th thou to the other side, I loosened up the bearing preload there a little bit, which made it a little easier to move. Got a little video clip I'll stick right here. My neighbor's dial indicator. And we played around for a few minutes there. It looks like it's around 12th thou. The book says 5 to 10. 12 is good enough for me. So yeah, I'm just going to leave that alone. I do need to take both of these bearing carriers back out. And there's an O-ring that needs to be inserted on both sides. And actually, I've decided I'm going to pull the transmission back off a third time. I'd forgotten. When I took the other transmission apart, that input shaft, I had ordered a seal and an O-ring for that. And I have them. Not really very difficult right now. I'm going to take this back out. But I think we're going to end this video here. Plenty long enough. I definitely appreciate your time, guys. Thanks for hanging out in the shop with me. And we'll see you next time. My old tractor shed. Ciao. If you're going to sneeze, make sure you get your glasses out of the way, because good Lord, you make a mess.